The devastating tornado tore through Edmonton in 1987. 27 people were killed, including 15 in this trailer park.
This tremendous roaring outside and the tremendous swirling of the clouds, and went out to take a closer look at it. And I became quite alarmed when I noticed that they were turning in that counterclockwise fashion.
In less than 4 minutes, it killed 15 people in a single neighborhood. It passed within meters of a chemical plant that, if ignited, could have leveled an entire city. This is the storm almost no one outside Canada has ever heard of. It was a Friday afternoon. Children were playing outside. People were finishing the work week. A woman in the Evergreen mobile home park was inside with her family.
The tornado touches down again, flattening an industrial park.
15 of the people who died that day died in that one park, in that one neighborhood, in minutes. The tornado that moved through Edmonton on July 31st, 1987, was 1.3 kilometers wide at its peak. It stayed on the ground for over an hour.
Terrible disaster in Edmonton. Tornadoes ripped through the city this afternoon, killing at least 30 people. 3 of them died when a train was blown over. More people were killed when a tornado flattened a trailer park. At least 100 people are being treated in hospital tonight. And there are fears even more people are trapped in collapsed buildings. The tornadoes touched down in several areas, leaving a trail of destruction behind them.
Probably somewhere between 300 and 400 patients were actually taken to hospital. EMS, we only transported 87 of them.
It killed 27 people, injured more than 300, and carved a path of destruction 30 kilometers long through the heart of a major Canadian city.
Those not caught in the path of the tornado captured it on film. These pictures were taken by amateur photographers, and these taken by a government employee out of a window of Edmonton's weather office.
Winds estimated at 418 kilometers per hour, faster than a Formula One car at full speed on Nita Strait. It passed directly between 2 operating oil refineries. It came within meters of a chemical plant, and almost nobody saw it coming until it was already there. This is Black Friday.
Meanwhile, an area of lower pressure was slowly building off the coast of British Columbia, but was unable to move east due to the sheer intensity of the ridge.
In the week leading up to July 31st, a low-pressure system sitting over southwestern British Columbia had been pumping warm, humid air deep into central Alberta. Day after day, thunderstorms had been building and breaking across the region, persistent, heavy, the kind of weather that leaves the air feeling thick, even after the rain stops. Forecasters were watching it closely. By the morning of the 31st, a cold front had developed over western Alberta and was moving east.
Throughout the morning, thunderstorms exploded to the southwest of Edmonton, making their way across Alberta. At 1:40 p.m., a severe weather watch was issued by the Alberta Weather Center for this area around Edmonton.
It was heading directly into the warm, moisture-loaded air mass already sitting over Edmonton. At 1:40 in the afternoon, Environment Canada issued a severe weather watch for the city. 1 hour later, it was upgraded to a warning.
We got a call from EMS saying that there was a tornado. And in all the years that I had worked there and in Edmonton, I had never heard that there was a tornado. And there was kind of this disbelief.
A lightning strike hit the lane behind the ambulance building. It entered the southeastern edge of the city as a multi-vortex tornado. Not one funnel, but several, rotating around a common center.
The request was out for all firefighters, police officers, nurses to report to their work locations.
Witnesses described the sky turning green, the air feeling heavy and wrong, and a sound consistently, universally described the same way by everyone who heard it, like a freight train.
This is where the most infamous video of this tornado was taken. This footage was taken less than half a mile from the tornado and showcases the absolutely wild multiple vortices within the parent tornado.
Oh my goodness, look at that. What is that? That's a cloud. That's a funnel cloud.
It tracked north through Mill Woods, tearing through the eastern suburbs at F2 to F3 intensity.
tornado at this point was only producing F2 damage. In total, 32 homes in Millwoods experienced significant damage.
32 homes in Millwoods were damaged. Power lines down. Streets filling with debris. Severe by any normal measure. Several large oil storage tanks were thrown. A buried storm sewer, 330 meters long, was sucked flat from above ground level.
I was notified by managers at the division I worked at, South Division, that the disaster had happened, to grab your gear and get out and get to the scene. Everybody was being redeployed.
When it reached Refinery Row, Edmonton's industrial corridor, home to oil refineries, steel mills, and transport yards, it hit F4.
This oil tank was lifted into the air and thrown several hundred feet onto Railway Street.
This is where those 418 kilometers per hour were measured, the highest wind speed ever estimated in a Canadian tornado. An empty oil tank, 22 meters wide, was torn from its mountings and hurled nearly 170 meters across the ground, clearing power lines on the way.
Several trains along the CN rail line were derailed. These trains contained anhydrous ammonia and sulfuric acid, two toxic corrosive substances that would be very dangerous to tissue upon contact.
Inside the steel mill, massive overhead cranes bolted to the building's framework were ripped clean off their rails. Entire industrial buildings collapsed as trucks, trailers, and heavy machinery were thrown across Refinery Row.
12 people in the industrial area were killed. Unfortunately, with the tornado hitting before 4 p.m., many people were still working and ended up getting trapped underneath piles of debris. Dozens of cars were flipped or thrown off the road, many with people trapped inside. The downed power lines, industrial debris blocking the road, and lack of available ambulances made getting people to the hospital that much more difficult.
12 people were killed in the industrial area alone. Many trapped inside transport yards and fabrication shops as the tornado tore through at peak strength. The tornado then passed directly between two operating oil refineries and within meters of a chemical plant processing volatile compounds. Had it tracked 30 meters further south, it would have struck the plant directly. The resulting fire and explosion could have been visible from downtown Edmonton. Emergency planners later said the consequences were almost unthinkable. It missed by meters.
Oh my goodness.
Edward Lozowski, a professor of atmospheric sciences at the University of Alberta, watched it pass from the ground. He later said it appeared completely black. It looked like a monster.
Luckily, as the tornado crossed the North Saskatchewan River, it weakened considerably, entering the far east side of Clairview.
It weakened slightly as it crossed the open ground between Baseline Road and the North Saskatchewan River. Slightly, it was still an F2 to F3 as it tore into the Clairview neighborhood, destroying homes in Kernahan, Bannerman, and Fraser. Gas lines ruptured. Fires sparked before the storm had even finished passing.
Many houses receiving roof damage, while 3 houses in the far eastern row on 19th Street were all but swept away.
Hundreds of homes were damaged, many left completely unlivable. But no one in Clairview was killed. For a moment, it seemed like the worst was over. The tornado was weakening. It had crossed the river, chewed through the suburbs, and appeared to be losing the energy that had made it so catastrophic in the industrial zone. Emergency crews were already beginning to move toward the damaged areas. Then the tornado reached Evergreen Mobile Home Park.
Despite Rod Grandish's newborn son being lifted out of his crib by the tornado and placed on the floor, then covered in debris.
That's where Rod Grandish was, inside his mobile home with his family, when the wall came down around him. Rod was a young father. Richard was his newborn, days old. In the seconds before the structure failed, Rod did the only thing he could think to do. He pulled Richard tight against his chest, wrapped both arms around him, and braced. The wind that hit Evergreen was not a gust. It was a sustained roar, the kind that doesn't give you a second to think, only to react. The walls separated from the floor. The roof lifted as a single unit. And in that moment, with his arms locked around his son, Rod felt Richard torn away from him. Rod survived. He was found in the wreckage of what had been his home. The baby's body was later found, kilometers away. He had been alive for days.
A mobile home community consisting of 723 buildings and over 1,000 residents. And this tornado, now at F3 strength, barreled right through the center of the community.
Evergreen Mobile Home Park took the full force of the tornado.
When it hit the Evergreen trailer park, it knocked out all their phone exchange. And so people couldn't phone out at all. And it wasn't until a number of victims or people had walked across about a good half a mile or so to Alberta Hospital and then relayed their story, and then the phone calls started coming in about the Evergreen trailer park. Our medical director came back over the radio and told me that he wanted me to arrange for a temporary morgue for victims.
Entire rows disappeared into splintered wood, twisted metal, and insulation scattered across open fields. Cars were thrown into each other. Trailers rolled and disintegrated.
Drove through the tornado, that's all, and it didn't flip my car. I made it through, and then I seen people all over the place dead, and bodies and houses torn.
People who survived later said they could not even recognize where their homes had been. 15 people died in Evergreen alone. Some were killed instantly as their homes collapsed around them. Others were trapped beneath debris, while rain and hail continued pounding the wreckage.
The first call for help actually came from the Alberta Hospital, who received many patients from Evergreen and relayed the information to the police department. This incident more than doubled the death toll of the tornado, adding another 15 fatalities.
Emergency crews struggled to even reach the park. 15 people died there, in that one location, in that one pass. Shortly after leaving the park, the tornado dissipated.
But it was at Evergreen Mobile Home Park where the true horror would unfold.
It had been on the ground for just over an hour. 27 people died, more than 300 injured, over 300 homes destroyed, hundreds more damaged beyond immediate repair. 4 major disaster sites across a city of 500,000 people.
I got caught right in the tornado. There was houses flying across 23rd Avenue, trucks flying across. I got out of my truck to help people and got thrown 30 feet across into a field. And when I got up, there were people laying all over the place, so we picked up a couple of bodies, injured people with hardly any faces left, and put them in the back of my truck and took them out to the ambulances on the Sherwood Park Freeway.
At 6:15 that evening, Mayor Lawrence DeCourt declared a state of emergency. The tornado had been gone for hours by then. In the days that followed, the city began the work of accounting for what had happened. Not just the damage, but the decisions, the gaps, the moments where a warning had been issued and still arrived too late for the people who needed it most.
I heard everything that we were scared silly. I mean, everything was coming off the house, and then we heard a big bang coming off this next door, I guess, when the roof came off.
The questions that came out of Black Friday were not comfortable ones, but they produced answers.
This incident more than doubled the death toll of the tornado, adding another 15 fatalities.
The emergency public warning system, the infrastructure that today breaks into radio, television, and cable broadcasts across Canada during disasters, was built directly in response to what happened on July 31st, 1987.
Doppler radar came to Edmonton in May of 1991. Doppler radar and conventional radar will show different things. As we move this animation forward in time, we will see some of these storms on the Doppler moving in, and these colors are corresponding to wind speeds approaching 50 knots, which is about 100 kilometers per hour, ready to move into the Edmonton area.
Canada's first Doppler weather radar network followed in the early 1990s. For the same reason, both systems have since delivered warnings to millions of Canadians. In time to take shelter, 27 people did not survive Black Friday, but the infrastructure built in their name has, in the decades since, given others the seconds that Evergreen never had. Some events do not just pass through a city, they change what it builds next. Edmonton remembers Black Friday, not only for what it destroyed, but for what it forced into existence. And that, in the end, is the only thing left, when everything else is gone.